Hello, my name is Michael Stone, and if you don't know me, I'm the founder of the welloflight.com. I'm a journalist, a trauma facilitator, a writer, and um, and a human being. And as a human being, I've been asked the question, how to create a better world. So that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. And first of all, I'm just curious about the question, how to create a better world. Just saying that makes me look at myself over here and as though there were a world out there. So the first thing I'd like to explore is this idea of that I'm a subject and the world is an object out there. And that creates a sense of separation. And I would say basically that all separation in the world is a product of this myth of separation. So, to create a better world is to recognize the interrelationship. It's not something that's separate from me. I am part of nature, part of the world. And just like the earth, my body is the earth. My bones are the minerals of the earth. My blood is the water of the earth. My fire, my presence, my heart is the fire. And, the space that I am, which is really important. We don't think about our inner space, but the space I am is the earth. So we tend to reduce ourselves as an object and the world as something out there. So the first question really I'd say to explore is this lie of I'm a separate object in a world of objects. The Cartesian Newtonian perspective and the prevailing scientific perspective that it's not real if it can't be measured and seen and felt. But everything is working together with everything else. There's no separation. So when we move from this kind of reductionist perspective that we can know the whole by looking at the parts is a incredible myth, and I believe at the heart of not just the suffering, but the economic crisis, the climate crisis, the pandemic crisis, all of these crises that we're now facing in the world are grounded in this place. So I think a more powerful question than how can I create a better world is how can I be more deeply related to the world with which I'm deeply interconnected with, and how am I connected? And one of the issues that I have spent the last some years looking at is this area of trauma, and we swim in a sea of trauma. And there's ancestral intergenerational trauma, there's familial trauma, there's individual trauma, there's collective trauma, and it's basically invisible. It looks like, we think of trauma like the big T, something bad happened to me. But much of the trauma, and when I'm using the word trauma, I'm talking about frozen past that's in our body that limits us. And we think, well, you know, I'm this way because of what happened to me as a child, because of what happened to my ancestors or my family, that made me this way. Certainly those things influence, but we have the capacity to actually meet this trauma, which we think of as something wrong and something broken and that something's not working. But in fact, it's kind of a miracle trauma when you look at it from the perspective of we were overwhelmed with fear. We were overwhelmed with pain. We were hurt physically, emotionally. We weren't seen. We weren't heard at some point in our development. And this intelligent nervous system that we have that's been evolving for hundreds of thousands of years stepped in and protected us and said, this is too much for this person to handle right now. So I'm going to suppress a part of their essential self, a part of their essence, a part of their essential goodness that we're all born with, this capacity for essential goodness. And so there's nothing to fix, but there's a lot to explore. And I want to invite you, just in this short time that we're together, to begin to question your own reality. What is the world? What are the causes that we think are creating effects? And how are they interrelated? And how do they work together? So, for instance, our body and our being is a complex system. As I said, we have all these parts that are mirrors of the natural world, and we are deeply interconnected. Our food, our water, our relationships, our air, everything is interrelated with the natural functions and systems of the earth. But we look through our thinking at the world, which is this thinking based in separation, and we really miss nature itself. So, how do we create a better world? We get really curious. We begin to wonder, how do those things work? If you look at a family system, how does the father, uh, work in that? How does the mother? How do the children, the siblings? How do the grandparents? You tend to look at the system. How is that in my culture? And to get curious. So, if we want a better world, we have to move away from the easy answers. Oh, Michael's like that. Oh, John's like this. Oh, Mary's like that. And actually pull back and get really curious. What is it that is interacting with other people, other systems, other things that keeps us from seeing the deep interconnection and interdependency that life is? So when we go back to the idea of trauma, that we're swimming in a trauma, the first damage of trauma is that it creates a sense of separation. So we have this, something happens. You could say you were developing and you were in the family system and the dog barked. You went over to the dog and the dog went, "Ruff," and you got scared and you ran back and you said, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, I'm scared, I'm scared." And Daddy may have said something like, "There's nothing to be scared about. It's just the dog. He's not going to hurt you. But I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. Don't be scared. Grow up." People say that to a 3-year-old. But does that do anything? No, it creates a suppressed ability to feel our fear, to feel our feelings in general. So from a developmental sense, think of the difference between, let's say, and I don't want to make this mommy or daddy or male, female, but let's say that same thing happened and the child says, "Mommy, mommy, I'm scared, I'm scared. The dog barked at me, I'm scared. He's gonna bite me, he's gonna eat me." And mommy says, "Come here, sweetheart. It's okay to be scared. Do you know what? I get scared sometime too. Come here. I love you so much, and it's okay to be scared. You know, it just happens sometimes, and that's what happens in life." Now, think about the developmental difference between, "Oh, it's okay to be scared," and "I'm not supposed to be the way I am. I'm not supposed to be scared. I'm supposed to be strong and tough, but I am scared." So that memory, that thought is lodged in the body. This is a very um, physical, like Bessel van der Kolk says, the body keeps the score. All of these little traumas that happen, plus all the things that have been sent to us from our ancestors, from our evolution. Like you might have had a parent that was abusive, or molested you, or did some things that were really terrible. But when you look at the context of and context really, is how we see everything, through a context, through a belief system. If you look at, oh, well, my mother had this happen, my father had that happen, and his father before, and his father before. So what can we do to have a better world? We can go into these areas that are frozen in us, allow ourselves to actually feel them in our body, to get a felt sense of what is needed to um, be able to be with. Because it's not a doing. It's not like I need to fix something that's broken, because any dysfunction that we have is serving a function that we don't understand. So if we go and be with the fear, that we be with the anger, that be with the pain that we carry, the stories that we carry, and allow ourselves to, from an adult perspective, be with some of those earlier experiences that we had. Just the awareness does the healing. There's nothing to fix. Awareness allows us to integrate the frozen past that keeps us stuck in repetitive behavior that causes suffering. So to become curious, to bring a sense of wonder, to give up the need to be in control, and to give up the need to know, and to approach life with a sense of wonder, awe, the mystery, the curiosity, to look at it in so many different ways. And how is my life related to all these other lives? And how is it related to the earth? And how is it related to the things that are happening in the world? How am I related to climate change, to slavery, to genocide, and wars? How is all of that part of me? And then when I allow myself to feel the feelings and to experience the emotions and the sensations that I'm having, I allow myself to create more inner spaciousness. And inner spaciousness is what relaxes our nervous system. We're no longer hyperactive and having to do things, having to fix things, moving fast, or hyporeactive, where we're basically asleep or suppressing. So this journey to a better world is really the journey to self-realization and recognizing. Buddhists have a wonderful term that I just think says so much. It's interdependent co-arising. We live in a world that's interdependently co-arising moment to moment. But mostly we're not in the moment. That's one of the issues. We need to get ourselves in the moment. But mostly we live in the remembered past. And I say remembered past because it isn't really the past. It's the story we told about what happened in the past. If you go to a sibling and say, remember the time that mom and dad did this? And they'll say, oh, that didn't happen that way. That wasn't the way it happened. It happened like this. So we want to really begin to question these issues that we take for fact, because there is no facticity. There's an agreement reality that manifests inside of a story which I call my identity. And my identity has one purpose only, and that is its own survival. And so I get stuck in a loop between this remembered past or the imagined future. What's going to happen when I get the house, when I meet the wife, when I meet the husband, when I win the lottery? We're always either reaching out to the imagined future or dwelling in the remembered past. So that's why I teach meditation, and I'm a big proponent of meditation. So it's really, really important that we pay attention to how can I bring myself back to this moment, to what's happening in this moment now. So how do I create a better world? Well, I create a better world by being more present in the world and recognizing the connections and how I listen and how I see and how I meet the world and how the world impacts me and I impact the world. So you might say that, a lot of people are looking for what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? We look at it as a sense of doing, but purpose is the unfolding of our soul's natural desire to serve life and beauty. What if we lived our life as I'm here to serve life and beauty? How would we see the world? How would we listen? In my work, I talk about the different stages of listening. The first one is, I'm here and I'm just, everything out there is a projection of me in here. It's the I'm in here. And then another level, we go to another level and it's like, oh, there's a person there. I just, and I actually get that there's another being there and I begin to see that there's a connection. And then we go to another level, which is an empathic level. Oh, I begin to feel you in me. I begin to get a sense of when I'm in my body, when I'm in the present with you, I can actually see you seeing me, and I can feel you in that nervous system that I'm talking about. Very important to explore and to be able to meet the world recognizing what's happening in our interiority instead of focusing on the form and the outside manifestation, but what's happening in me. And so that's another level of listening, is empathic. But then there's a whole nother aspect of listening, which is listening to the field in which we are all moving, the energy and movement of being in a field, and how do we relate, and how does nature relate? Because we tend to relate out of our mind and out of this objective reality that we believe, this sense of separation from the world. But how are we as an interdependent part co-creating a world and a field of wisdom that we are in? So what's missing, a lot of what's missing, I think, in this question of how to create a better world is this sense of belonging, of this sense of, deep interconnection with life, with each other. And I guess one of the key things I would say is that, can we return to the sacred? Martin Buber has this I-thou relationship. I-it relationship is the world of objects uh, in a world of objects, an object in a world of objects. But when you get to the I-thou, then not only you become sacred because you show up in my nervous system and my capacity to hold you and feel you and hear you in a way that I'm not separate, but a part of what's unfolding between us, so that what lives between us is more important than my story and your story. It's like, well, what is emergent right now? For a better world to emerge, we need to return to the sacred, to that what is sacred, to really live in that question, because everything is sacred. Everything is alive. Everything has a function in life. including, as I said before, the dysfunctional parts of ourselves that aren't recognized and acknowledged. So I hope you'll join us for some of the talks that we do, some of the programs we offer at the Well of Light. You can reach us by going to thewelloflight.com. And thank you for taking the time to listen to my little part of this How to Create a Better World. And how to create a better world is how do we create a more interconnected me in the world? So thank you so much for listening, and much love to you all. Bye for now.